Dave Fonda. I have been, for the past 8 years and 4 referendums, involved in urging Freeport to adopt a managerial form of municipal government. And this is, of course, we all have gone down this road and learned more and more every year about this as a community. And prior to that time, I was chairman of the Chamber of Commerce in 1990 and 91, and been on several boards: the YMCA board, the Highland Community College Foundation, Greater Downtown Freeport back in the day. I owned a business here in town. It was Bettner Heating, which we merged with Lesher in 2005. I've been a business owner in the community. I've been involved with the Chamber of Commerce and a number of boards, and I believe I've come to understand and really love this community and the potential in this community. But I think that there's been some areas where we could improve by having a more unbiased approach to the way we deliver city services. And by that I mean instead of having a politically elected mayor that's in charge of all the department heads and pretty much in charge of the agenda on a weekly basis with the city council, we have a city manager that reports to the city council and to the mayor, and that person is a professional in his field or her field, which would be what we call in the field of public administration. And usually that person will have been in a capacity in a city, either running a city just maybe not quite as large as Freeport, or maybe an assistant in a city about the size of Freeport. And that person also would probably have a public administration degree from Northern Illinois University or someplace else in the country. Northern has a very good program. That person probably would also subscribe to the professional organization that encompasses that profession, and that is called the International City County Management Association. So they have a lot of resources for city managers, county managers, because these professionals exist in a county level too, which is kind of an exciting thing, that we may be on the threshold of generating a whole new professional attitude towards how we run our government. And and I'm an avid cyclist. I've been I'm president of the local cycling club here called the Chain Link Cyclists, and we've been able to get a safe cycling path out the back of Crepe Park, and which has helped us move riders in and out of the park onto safe roads off of Fairground Road. And so I'm very excited to have the great participation of our park district. And that's another example of the type of community that we have here. It's a very giving community. We have a wonderful park district, great community college. YMCA is second to none. I think we've got a lot of things going for us. And I think we need to catch up on the city government. And so that's what I'm going to try to do. We're going to cross this threshold, and I'm going to try to act as the mayor for the transformation in the coming 4 years. And so that when I leave office, that we have a good culture that is embracing this new form of government and knows how to work with this form of government, knows how to work with the city manager. And along the way, I think we're going to accomplish some really exciting things, and I can probably talk about that as we go further. I've never held a political office. I've always kind of been in the background. Even when I ran the referendums, I didn't seek any political office. I did. I take that back. Back when Ron Laufer stepped down from being the state representative, I did run for the state representative for a period of time, but the challenges in my business were too great at that time, and so I had, unfortunately, had Jim Sasha ready to go, and that worked out very good. So I've sought that one time I sought political office, but I've never held political office. I've been a businessman. Well, as I mentioned, our park district, our community college, our YMCA, I think we have a very giving community. We have a very faithful community. And I think those are the strengths. We have a great public library now, thanks to a lot of hard work by volunteers. What we've been able to accomplish in this city has been mostly because people have rolled up their sleeves and gived of their time, which is just as valuable as any dollar you could ever write or any check you could write. I think, and this is the reason why we worked so hard to, because we have to give a lot of credit to the Chamber of Commerce and the community, the Committee to Change City Government. We work so hard because we have not done a good job of strategic planning within the government. I think we kind of drive by the rearview mirror, so to speak. And I don't think we're doing enough forward thinking, strategic thinking within the government. And that includes the mayor's office and the city council. And the other thing is, I just don't think ever that the city council and the mayor have worked together. In fact, I would almost think that they struggle against one another. And I mean, I don't need to go into any examples because I think we all know, and I think the people perceive this. And that tends to drag down some of the good things that we could accomplish if we would just step back, regroup, and think about what the future holds for this city. Where can we go? There's tons of excuses out there we can use to say why our city has not been as vital in the last 20, 30 years. But, you know, we can do that all day long and never get anywhere. So it's really time to say, what can we do? And I think it all starts with the city and county government working together, the mayor and the council working together. So I believe that's where we have to head. If we don't do that, we're just going to be back, we're going to throw this thing in reverse, and it's all going to be over. So we have to make a very concerted effort to be positive, to be inclusive, to work together, to be on the same page. I mean, we've got this great initiative, this branding thing called Freeport All In right now. I lived through Vision 2020 and Prospering Together, and you know, we never got off the dime. And I think it's because, honestly, God, I think it's because the city didn't support it, the city government, and didn't get lockstep involved with it. Oh, yeah. Well, the first thing we got to do is we have to create the new culture around the structure that has been changed by referendum. So, you know, if we look at it, two pillars of professionalism, we look at a structure, and we look at the culture. They hold up the arch, and so we've got to think more clearly about the culture now that we've crossed the threshold and we've created this new structure. And the culture is really wrapped in what that structure allows us to do, and that includes the role of the city council, the role of the mayor, the role of the city manager within the context of the council and the mayor working together, and the department heads. It's all teamwork. I think this is the point that we have to really focus on the city government for now, for the present time. We can't try to solve a lot of problems that, we got to let Amy Drevelvis and that group go their way and support them in every way we can. But we have to solve some problems within the government, and that is the cultural problems that have prevented us from moving forward in the past. Well, the mayor, in the way we are approaching this managerial form of government, the mayor's job, since he is an elected official, he's not appointed like the county board chairman. The mayor's job really is to be the chief among equals. And it's not just hammering the gavel. And it's not just going out and kissing babies and glad handing. He has to be involved with strategic planning, strategic development, alongside the council, working with the council and the city manager. And he has to make sure, I think that the mayor's job is really to be one that would keep things on track. So if it kind of gets off to the side and we're drifting a little bit, the mayor's job really, in my estimation, with the help of the city manager, because he's really professionally involved and he's signed up to run the government, to bring these things back into perspective and move forward. The mayor's job, I think, is a very essential job in that it is one of keeping things on track. This is the way. Let me give you an example. Over in Dubuque, the economic development professional Rick Dickinson, Mayor Roy Buell, and Mike Van Milliken, the city manager, have a sit down on Wednesday at 10:30 every Wednesday. And what they do is they go over the proceedings of the previous week and what they see coming on in the next week ongoing. And they do this every week. And we call that continuous improvement in manufacturing or in business. So you're always you're always looking forward, and you're always trying to keep things on track. And that's just one small example. But the role of the mayor really is to be the encourager, the nurturer of not only the city manager and her performance, but the performance of the council, keeping the council on track, working together, no hidden agendas, and that's kind of hard sometimes. So a lot of challenges here. So you have to have a personality, I think you have to have a rather forceful personality, but you have to be a very understanding, compassionate personality as well. You can't just be a dictator. And then you can't sit back and just say, okay, I'm a part-time mayor, they're only paying me $27,000, which to me is a lot of money for somebody that just does not do very much, because they've accepted the position as part-time mayor. They think the city manager and the council can do it all, and all they have to do is run the meetings. And believe me, I'm not saying anything about the competition at all, but there's two ways you could look at it. You could have a mayor that's going to be kind of a dictator, saying my way or the highway, or you can have a mayor that just maybe just kind of floating along, so to speak. I don't think we need that. We need that mayor to be an active, keep us on track, keep us moving forward. That's what we need. I have a lot of opinions, Greg, and I could go into great detail, and that would be probably get me off the track of what I really want to convey to the public, and that is this, that like any other city in the United States, we have a lot of consultant proposals, findings. Give you an example. Dick Drogas got two very professional people from Honeywell to do an evaluation of the city from the perspective of customer friendliness. That's one thing we always hear about. You know, you walk into the city and, oh man, who's in charge? You know, and you pull on the door handle and it comes off in your hand, and, you know, and the John, and you know, things like that. But we need to have some. We need to. I'm kind of getting off the track here, but no, I'm not. I want to try to get back on the track. Anyway, Dick did this great 28-page report that could have helped and could have been part of a strategic planning session on how to implement this. But it went up on a shelf, and that's where it stayed. You know, and there are a lot of other proposals that came down over the years. I don't know if you remember Tang, but there were quite a few proposals that have come down over the years. I think we ought to get those proposals off the shelf, dust them off, have a task force, councilmen, people from strategic thinking, people from the community, come together, department heads, city manager, right at the head, right in the centerpiece, and let's figure out what works and what can work for Freeport and what maybe we ought to put off. But let's get going on some of this stuff. Let's not just let it sit there catching dust. I mean, I lived in Janesville, and I was on the public library committee in Janesville when they built a new library there. And I used to go into the Janesville reading room, and there were stacks of these. And I know they went through some of them, but I don't know that we've gone through any of them. And then the other thing, as we were talking about using the example of Dubuque, the other thing I think we could be doing, these are things that I think we ought to be working on tactically, not strategically, but tactically, that we ought to get the county board administrator and the city manager, the mayor and the chairman, and our economic development people, and anybody we can think of that makes sense to bring in, and let's start marketing Freeport from the inside out. Let's get Freeport, the city of Freeport, and the county, and let's get on some of this stuff. I think that's the reason why Dubuque has been so successful, is because they've got the mayor, the council, the manager, and and I don't know if the county's involved with it. They probably are, and and Rick Dickinson at the Economic Development Corporation. They're all working together. It's not rocket science. Well, my vision, and I want Freeport to be a magnet, a bright, shining light. I want it to be a community that just you drive through it, you come and talk to people, you interact with people, you interact with the city government, you shop here, and you want to say, I'd like to live here. I'd like to move my family here. I mean, there's just I want it to have that certain joie de vivre that creates excitement, and people say, "Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know Freeport was like that." That's kind of the way I want to see it go. And then I wanted to subscribe to one of the top tenets on the Code of Ethics for the International City County Management Association's Code of Ethics. And that is that we distribute city services equitably throughout the city. We have police, fire, streets and sanitation. We've got basic fundamental things that we do as a city to make our community comfortable and safe. And we ought to, any resources that we can bring to bear, they ought to be brought to bear equitably throughout the city. Well, I'll tell you what, I hate to be going back to Dubuque, but they were given an award by Forbes magazine. They were one of the top 10 cities in the United States to raise a family. Now think about that for a minute. Think about that. Encompassed in that, you have job retention, job creation. You've got all the amenities that are associated with a beautiful community. And, you know, I think that really says it all about a community that is nearly perfect. It's a great place to raise a family. Well, I think you got it on camera. Am I the person that's trustworthy? Am I the person that's going to be the person to keep things on track moving forward through the next 4 years? Can I create the atmosphere where we get better candidates for public office than we have in the past? And again, I'm not saying anything about the candidates currently. I'm just saying I think that we could tap into better candidates. How I got involved in this is, like I said, I was involved in 4 referendums and 8 years worth of hard work trying to get this thing going. And when we won the referendum, we were kind of sitting around the table patting ourselves on the back. And I figured that, oops, you know, we didn't do a very good job of trying to find that first person to run and to be a candidate. And quite frankly, none of the other candidates had really approached in any, what I would call in any sense of urgency, or approached our committee to learn about the managerial form of government. None of them called me. In all 8 years that I've worked, none of the candidates, with maybe the exception of Andrew, Andrew Crutchfield and I have had some conversation, but none of the, and maybe Keister, you know, he's been down having coffee with us from time to time. But really, none of them have really made an effort to come to the Committee to Change City Government and understand what this form of government's all about. And that I think we need to change that. So that's my mission, to try to create the culture and try to get better candidates in that spirit, to get better candidates that really have the fire in the belly and want to continue to move this community forward, because it just doesn't stop after 4 years. And it just doesn't stop because we did a referendum. And it just doesn't stop because we got a part-time manager or part-time mayor, and we don't have a full-time mayor. It doesn't stop. It can't. It will be totally unsuccessful if it doesn't. Well, thanks. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you, Greg, and I wish whatever comes what may. I'm running in I guess I didn't say this, I'm running in the primary for the Citizens Party against Jody Miller. And if I get through the primary, then we can talk about the April election. And we'll see how it goes. I'm excited. Naturally, I'd like to be 30 years younger, but 30 years younger, I don't think $27,000 may not be there. But and it's funny. I've thought a lot about that, about dollars and cents in this thing, and how it tends to kind of muddy up the waters a little bit. Because if I were really a part-time mayor in a working, heavily oiled machine, and it was working really good like it is over, I would be willing to accept $15,000 just to have the privilege of being able to serve. And I think that's where the rubber meets the road, is in the service.